Hello, friends. Uncle Marv here with another episode of the Unhealthy Podcast, where we talk about all the things in our life that we really don't want to talk about with everybody else, the things that are unhealthy when it comes to our health and our wellness and our relationships, our habits, all those things. And we just try to, have a chat, fix them one day at a time, one step at a time, and we'll see where it goes. So today on the Unhealthy Podcast, I am excited to welcome Magic Barclay. She is the founder and lead practitioner at Holistic Natural Health Australia. She is a functional medical practitioner. Uh, she's an instructor. She's the host of her own podcast. She's written books. Uh, Pretty exciting there. So let's see what Magic has to say. Magic, welcome to the show.
Hi, Uncle Marv. Thanks for having me.
Hi, thanks for being here. And I should, tell everybody, yes, they heard the word Australia there. So we are in two completely different time zones. In fact, you are so far ahead of me that it's the next day. So good morning.
Good morning and welcome from tomorrow.
Okay. So let's start with, I guess, some basic questions. I like to find out people's journeys to where they are. And in terms of what started you down this path, did you have something happen to you? Were you always interested in health? What was the motivating factor?
Yeah, look, for a very long time in my life, I followed mainstream medicine, as most people do,
Right.
and it wasn't serving me. I was being gaslit, medically gaslit, told everything was in my head, I'm attention seeking, you know, just do this, eat less, move more, you'll be fine. Like it's all on you. And I didn't like this victim shaming and victim blaming because I still wasn't getting the help that I needed. And it wasn't until that all culminated in several serious illnesses at once that I went, oh, okay, maybe I was right. Something was wrong in my body. And, we'll talk about this shortly. I had to relearn how to listen to my body. And so I started learning about how the body actually works, not take this pill and then everything will be fine, but how it actually works. And so I threw myself into learning functional medicine, and the answers that I'd been seeking for many years started popping up. And it was almost too little too late because I'd had some medical interventions that unfortunately have left me with lifelong things I'm gonna have to deal with. But I understood why now, and I
Okay.
really understood it wasn't all in my head. That was the main thing.
Okay. So let's get a little bit of understanding. Were these things that happened to you, when you were younger, growing up? Did they happen as you were an adult? When did all this start?
It all kind of happened, well, culminated as an adult. But you know what? I looked back at my medical history, and this is something we do in functional medicine. We look right back to day one. And I looked at my history of, certainly when I started getting my cycle, getting a cold every single month, like a head
At
cold,
the
and
same
then
time?
looking yeah, yeah. And so
Oh,
this was something that was ignored by mainstream medicine. This is something in functional medicine that it went, okay, so when your hormones are changing, that's when your immune system isn't happy and something happens. But I can even look back to my childhood. Every time there was trauma, I would get sick. And so these are things that happen in our history that we dismiss, and it really can't be dismissed. So when I'm working with someone, I look right back to, the very early stages. What did you have as a child? What viral infections did you have? What happened when you started getting into adolescence? Did your body react? Did other systems of your body have to come in and let you know something was happening? And I think, for me, it culminated in, as I said, some very serious health conditions, and then looking there at how did I get here? So nothing happens in our body without a reason, right? Without a trigger or multiple triggers. And so we really need to look at, okay, I've got this diagnosis now. How did it happen? Why did it happen? What led up to it? And so that was what I had to start learning and treating, because guess what? The conditions that I had didn't come out of nowhere. And just because I was treating those conditions doesn't mean something else wouldn't happen.
Right.
So this is why my team look at root cause. What is the root cause behind it? Because you can treat the symptoms, you can treat how you react to it, but unless you treat the triggers, it's going to happen again or something else similar will happen.
So I understand, and I've talked to enough people now to realize that our medical system, and I don't know how different it is in Australia from the US, but I know that our doctors only have a limited number of time to see people, and you pretty much have to fall within a certain, criteria of, oh, you feel this, take this, and if it doesn't work, then they're kind of at a loss for words. Now, when you talked about, going through your stuff and not getting answers, obviously the things that you were going through were real. So I understand doctors not really taking you seriously, but what about family and friends?
Look, family and friends kind of just ignored it as well.
Mm,
It was like, oh, she's sick again. And I hear this from a lot of people with chronic illness. And in fact, one of my very early podcasts talked about this. It's almost like people don't want to get into it because they don't want to know that they're human as well, that something could happen to them. So when you have chronic illness, people stop inviting you to things because you say no anyway, right? So why should they invite you? Family will go, "Oh, it's too far for you to drive. We'll let you sit this one out." They make these decisions for you. And so that was happening to me. A lot of people were like, "Oh, we'll keep you at arm's length because we're helping you," right? But no, they actually don't want to see it in their face.
right.
They don't want to see that someone's struggling, that they're human and that could happen to them. And then they think that they're helping you by excluding you, but that then leaves you feeling worse because you now don't have the right to say no. And so, this is really something that I found, and certainly a lot of my friends have found as well, and my clients reported as well, that, we get shut out. And the people that should love and care for us, they're still doing that, but they're doing it through their own lens instead of saying, "Hey, what is it that you need? I'm having a party. Do you want to come? If you're up to it, do you want to come? But it's okay if you can't, but the invitation's there." Instead, they say, "Look, we know you're not going to feel well, so we're going to let you sit this one out."
Mm.
You've got to have the option because you've got to have something to live for, something to fight for every single day. Whatever's happening in your body is going to take every bit of strength that you've got. But you do have good days, and it's really important to still be part of a community, part of family, friendship groups, all that kind of thing. And so, I see this happening a lot, and I saw it happening to me too.
Now, the things that were happening to you, now you mentioned, getting, sinus stuff around your cycle, but I mean, was it really debilitating stuff where you couldn't function, or was it because you were just always, sniffling, having a cold, and that's what they thought it was, or was it worse?
Yeah, no, look, for me, it was just a head cold. I'm one of these people, I'm going to keep going until I literally drop. And that's just who I am and who I've always been. But, it was something. It was my systems of my body saying, "Hey, not happy. Now that your hormones are changing, not happy. We need to do something." And so for me, it never stopped me. It was just a head cold. But I've seen other people that have been bedridden, and this happens to young men as well when they get a surge of testosterone. Their endocrine system is still screaming. And so something else might happen. And so, I see a lot of young males come through the clinic, and, as soon as they reach puberty, they start getting leg pain, bone pain. And it's because their hormonal profile's changing. So, nothing can be ignored. No system works alone. They all work together. And I think it's really important that we really learn to trust and listen to our body. And certainly if you are dealing with chronic illness, when you're having a day that you've got energy, great. use that energy, but pace yourself. When you've got a day that you've got no energy, that's okay as well. Just roll with it and treat your body with the respect that it is requiring.
All right. So you sound like now you've got a very good approach to this, but I want to go back. What was it or how did you get introduced to functional medicine? Because a lot of people, that's usually a last resort, and it's almost out of desperation. How did you get introduced to that?
Well, okay. So one of my conditions was cancer, and I had surgery to remove the cancer. Wish
Okay.
I hadn't done it now. You know, what we know now, if we knew it then, all that kind of thing. But I was left with lymphatic damage. So my cancer had gotten into my lymph nodes, and I started seeking help for my lymph issues. And so I met a guy called Dr. Perry Nicholson from the US. And lo and behold, he was coming out to Australia to do a workshop. So I thought, I need to learn about this system because this is now damaged by the surgery. So I went to his workshop here in Melbourne, in Australia, and he had a fellow with him called Dr. Stuart Gillespie, who is a functional medicine expert. And so these two gentlemen, who I'm so proud to call my mentors now, um, really introduced me to not only what the lymphatic system can do and should be doing, but also now functional medicine. And when these two fellas started talking, like light bulbs were going off everywhere. I'm like, now it all makes sense. I see what was missed for the past, 40 plus years. And now I'm in my 50s, and I'm still very proud these two gentlemen are in my professional life. And I just, I thank the universe for bringing them to me when I needed them.
Hmm. So, uh, are you cancer free now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good for that.
So, yeah, it popped back a couple of years ago in just a very small form, and it's been dealt with. And yeah, I actually did testing last week, and everything's looking very good now.
Okay. I want to go back to something you said earlier when you said that there's a chance that there was too little too late because of all the damage that you got. When did you meet them?
I met them, oh gosh, I want to say 2017.
Okay.
And this was now 5 years, no, 4 years post-surgery. So, I met them at a time when my body was really starting to make changes to adapt to the damage from what had happened to me medically, and I was really needing some answers.
Hmm. So, wow. So in your 50s. So all the way up into your 40s, you were dealing with chronic illness and all of this stuff. And when did the cancer diagnosis?
Yeah, the
Uh,
cancer diagnosis was, 12 years ago now.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then you had a couple years with that and stuff. So you spent a lot of your life just putting up with stuff, right?
Putting up with stuff, getting by, making the most of it, yeah, you name it. In the midst of that, I'd had 3 pregnancies, 2 children. I had gone from, a history of, self-damaging behavior with alcohol, and food and lack of food. Gone from that to all of a sudden motherhood, had to start eating, had to stop drinking, and, these things all took their toll on my body. And, it wasn't until the kids were able to move around and, growing up, and I went, "Oh, now I'm morbidly obese. This is craziness. Like, I have to do something." Of course, there's always a reason behind everything. For me, my obesity wasn't just what I was eating and what I was doing. A big part of it was. But, there was this underlying ticking time bomb inside me. And the organs that was attaching to was pulling the strings with my weight. And, so it's kind of been a flow through of a disastrous health, but we're here now and everything's great.
Okay. So glad to hear that. So now I want to go back and kind of get this idea. I know that you said that you had spent a lot of your time trying to figure stuff out on your own. You wanted to figure out, if I take this pill, what does this really do to my body? Had you gotten involved in the medical field before you met the 2 doctors?
No, like I
No?
said, I was very much, my doctor would say, "Take this because I said so," and I go, "Okay, yep."
So your
And
regular life was just normal? Were you working in the
yeah.
corporate world or
No, no, no. So I'd had several mini careers prior to my children being born, but when they were born, I wanted to be a stay-at-home mum and, really focus on them. They had some, conditions as well, so really focused on them, for the first 18 years for the first one, 16 for the second one. So it wasn't till then that I started getting back into the workforce. And, you know, I'm glad that I had my time with my children. I'm glad that I could afford to do that at the time. They're now my very best friends and we all live together still. They're in their 20s. Um, but, it wasn't until I really got sick and I had a look at them and, there were days I couldn't even get out of bed. And I said, "Look, mummy can't even make dinner." And so we found ways around it. They would bring me all the things and I would, peel the potatoes from my bed and then they'd take it back and then, I'd muster up enough strength to go in and actually cook it for 10 minutes. And, we had to adapt and we had to learn how to work together as a team. And I'm super glad that they now don't take anything for granted. After everything we've been through in the past 12 years, they do not take anything for granted. If I'm having a down day health wise, they can see and they're like, "Mum, slow down. You know that the paddocks don't need to be slashed right now. Just slow down. The grass will still be there tomorrow. We can see that you're getting red in the face and tired and making mistakes. Just take it easy." And, they listen to their bodies now too. So one of them came out with me yesterday. We had lunch out together, had a bit of mum son time. And he goes, "Yeah, I'm getting a bit of a sore throat. I know we're supposed to do something together tomorrow, but we'll need to reschedule because I'm going to take some elderberry syrup and I'm just going to stay warm and look after myself and hydrate." And I went, "That's great. Do it."
Nice, nice. Okay. So then you meet, Dr. Nicholson, Dr. Gillespie. Uh, how soon after meeting them did your world change?
Instantly.
Really?
I thought, this information that they're telling me, why doesn't everyone know it? Like, why isn't it everywhere? And so I started doing that. So I formed my company, Holistic Natural Health Australia, to let everyone know about this fantastic stuff and how great the body is and how great all our systems are because they're keeping us safe. And, it was something I really threw myself into. And I want to say it completely changed my world. I
Mm.
mean, here we are today talking about it.
Yep.
It's absolutely amazing. The human body is amazing. And something that, my two beautiful mentors always say is the human body has no, it has no need to, uh, to mean anything, to make sense to you. It just is what it is. You don't have to understand it. It doesn't have to make you understand it. It's still there. It's still doing everything it has to do.
Very interesting. So if somebody were to talk to you about, your situation, now I've learned, you know, took me a while to learn, but everybody is different. So somebody will hear your story and think, hey, I want to try what she tried. But it doesn't really work that way. Everybody is different. But I still want to kind of get an idea of what were some of the things that they taught you that you were able to do that made that difference.
Yeah, look, the biggest thing was knowing what the immune system is doing. Now, this has become a dirty word, and, in a lot of podcasts, we get censored for saying the word immune, but it's
Really?
super, super important. Yeah, especially in Australia.
Okay.
Yeah. So our immune system is a powerhouse system in our body, and we have several different immune types. So we're born with the innate immune system. That's the one that is our baseline. It's supposed to handle things within the first 3 days. If it can't, it kicks things up to the acquired immune system. We're supposed to sit in a system there called T3 or T regulation, and it's like the conductor with the batons. And, it's like, oh, you've got an infection, go to this one, and you're pregnant, go to that one. So it's supposed to do that, and we're supposed to jump in and out but not get stuck. The biggest thing for me to learn was, the biggest term we have in medicine is autoimmune. You have an autoimmune disorder. And most medical doctors will tell you that's your body attacking itself, but it's not. What an autoimmune is that you're stuck in one of these acquired systems. For one reason or another, you are stuck there. And it's a matter of getting unstuck so that you can get back to T regulation, so that you can then allow your innate immune system to do what it's supposed to do. And, this was the biggest learning point for me, that it doesn't matter what you're dealing with. There's the immune system that needs to be looked after and supported for whatever it's reacting to or making happen at the time. And then once I started learning about that, I then started learning about how the immune system interacts with other systems of the body. And this is where my work really shines now. And it's called PNEI, which is psychoneuroendoimmunology. So it's psycho, it's your limbic system, it's your central part of your brain, thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Now, this changes the message it's telling you just depending on what's going on. So trauma, illness, happiness, love, all these kind of things will change what your limbic system is telling you. Now, that message doesn't just stay there. It goes to the nervous system. Now, I'll circle back a minute. Remember I said everything needs to keep you safe.
Right.
I said that earlier. So your limbic system, the messages it's coming up with are to keep you safe. If you can't just stop it all there, it goes to your nervous system, neuro, to keep you safe. So we start getting nervous system issues. And then if that can't keep you safe, it brings in the endocrine system. Okay, now remember, a lot of my issues were endocrine system based right from very early on. So if that can't keep you safe, then the immune system, comes in. So if we look back to when I was getting my cycles and getting head colds, of course, my endocrine system was going all kaflooey and I was getting head colds. So now my immune system was reacting. So this PNEI pathway is in play every single day of our lives, every time anything happens. And we really need to understand it has one job, and that is to keep you safe. But the big dog that it ends with is your immune system. So, when you've had trauma or something's happened, and then, down the track, it goes through the PNEI, of course, it's going to show up as an autoimmune or multiple autoimmune disorders. Now, if you go to mainstream medicine, they say it's an autoimmune, it's your body attacking itself. But in functional medicine, we go, okay, let's take a step back each way. What actually happened first?
Hmm. So you're talking about the root cause versus the symptom, but we always start with the symptom and work backwards.
Correct.
Okay.
And I liken treating symptoms like those whack-a-mole games at the fair.
Right.
You can keep hitting and hitting, they're going to keep popping up. And so if you're just treating symptoms, that's what you're doing. You're not actually pulling the plug of the game, or, your money's run out and that's it, you've won the game or lost the game. You're just forever whacking them all. And, we can't spend our lives doing this.
Well, but a lot of us do.
Yeah.
A lot of us, we just take aspirin or Tylenol or whatever and mask the pain and move on. We amp up on caffeine when we're
Yeah.
tired and stuff. Um, so I want to say thank you because when I saw the PNEI, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to pronounce that. So I was going to, I was going to ask you that anyway.
Yeah.
But there was a second part of that, the psychoneuroendocrinology
Yeah.
of trauma.
Yes.
So one thing that I learned is that we use the word trauma incorrectly sometimes because we always think of it as dramatic. Something big has happened. You broke your arm or leg, or you banged it. But trauma can literally be anything. It could be small when it comes to the body, right?
Yeah, definitely. So let's look at a paper cut. Okay, I have one on my finger at the moment. It's not a paper cut, it's a chicken cut because they were biting me as I was feeding them this
Okay.
morning. It's a little cut. Now, it starts off itchy, okay? And this is the immune system at work. It's trying to heal it. But while it's happening, we're saying something to ourselves. Are we saying, my finger's really itchy and hot? It's driving me mad. We're making something out of it. We never just completely ignore it. Our limbic system doesn't. So unconsciously, or subconsciously rather, we're thinking something about the little cut on our finger. What's happening to the nervous system? Well, we might start guarding it. We might start getting nervous. We might start getting, a bit of a tingliness happening, right? Because the nerves have to heal the area. And then endocrine system might start feeling a little bit dizzy, depending on how big the cut is. Might start feeling a bit hot and flushed. You're having a reaction to it because, damn, you cut your finger, right? But your immune system's the one doing the work. Now, this is just a tiny little paper cut, but it's still a trauma. And when we have the big traumas in life, even then we don't even listen to them most of the time, right? I was in a horrible marriage for 14 years. That was a trauma. I stuck it out for 14 years. Shouldn't have done it. But, whether it's a horrible marriage or a car accident or a paper cut, it's all a trauma. And we don't have to see trauma as something big and exaggerated and life changing. Trauma can be anything. Trauma can be a stubbed toe. Trauma can be the paper cut, the chicken bite. It can be anything.
Hmm. Interesting. So let me now check our time here. We're going to run over. I already know. Um, Something that when you started talking about what made you better, and even though Dr. Nicholson and Dr. Gillespie's, they were doctors, but a lot of times when it comes to holistic and functional medicine, um, those aren't found in the normal medical field. A lot of people aren't doctors because it's not recognized by the insurance companies or the medical field or stuff like that. So when you started to transform and become better and everything, what were some of the misconceptions that people thought when all of a sudden you were better?
Yeah, so a lot of people thought that maybe because I'm better now, I was putting it on or making it up before.
For 40
Not the
years.
case. Yeah, for 40 years, right? No, not the case. Maybe, I have clients contact me and they go, "But you're not a doctor." And I go, "Well, maybe that's good. Maybe that's the best thing." Because, I talk about Stewart and Perry, they're true doctors. If we look at where the language, the Latin word doctor came from, it meant teacher, right? It didn't mean dispenser. It didn't mean big pharma. It didn't mean any of that till 1928. So, not so long ago, if we really look at it, 100 years, a doctor has been a doctor. Prior to that, a doctor was a teacher. So when people say to me, "But you're not a doctor," true, correct, but I am a teacher. So I'm a true doctor from the Latin. And, for me, people were like, even my mother, like, I love my mother, okay? But she sees doctors all the time. And then I'll say something, she'll go, "Well, how do you know that? You're not a doctor." And I'm like, "'Cause I know. I've studied this. I'm doing this." I don't need to have the plaque on the wall to say, I know everything because I'm a doctor. I don't. Don't know everything, and I'm not a doctor, and I don't wanna be one. So, you know, I think we need to look at where information is coming from. Certainly, a lot of the stuff that I use in practice is, older, more ancient remedy information. And that's because I trust where things are coming from. So, we take things from Big Pharma and we don't look at where they're from. What are they based on? And I'm going to give you one very controversial example here, and that
Okay.
is ivermectin, right? Ivermectin. For the past 6 years, most countries have been banning it. It's a horse wormer or a dog wormer, and they've been saying, don't use it, it's only for animals. In fact, here in Australia, it was illegalized during the craziness of the past few years. Okay. But what is ivermectin? It's a wormer based on a plant called sweet wormwood. Now, this plant is fantastic to grow in your garden. It's a great companion plant for veggies. If you grow it around your chook yard, bits of it will break off because it has quite a flimsy stem. So as it grows, it breaks off. You just chuck it in with the chooks. Keeps the pests away, it keeps mites and lice down, and the chooks will eat it to help themselves be worm free. So, why are we told now that this medication based on this powerhouse plant should be illegalized and not taken? Right? I look at where did it come from? What is that plant doing? What are the plant's properties? Of course, these plants have hundreds of years of use. So, in functional medicine, we do this. We look at not only root cause of illness, but where did these things that help us heal come from? And how can we use that initial plant to do what we need?
So for that particular plant, though, I mean, when you say it's been banned and everything, what got it banned? Were people openly telling everybody, "Hey, you know, use this plant and fix this," and Big Pharma got all upset?
Well, no, it wasn't the plant that got banned, it was the medication made
From
based on the plant that got banned.
Okay.
However, now in Australia, we do have a plant being banned, and this plant is called moringa. And this plant is another powerhouse shrub, and it does multiple things, including lowering blood pressure and blood sugars. And now in Australia, to take moringa capsules is a no-no. You're not supposed to do it. And
Right.
yet, this plant came from Asia and for hundreds and hundreds of years has been used in healing. So we need to look at why are these things being banned, but some medications are okay without being questioned. And, we need to kind of distinguish, is it Big Pharma pulling the strings with our doctors, or is it their passion for healing us? And really ask questions.
All right, that's another discussion for another time.
Totally.
Um, so I wanna make sure, I did mention, your holistic natural health. I'll have the, full link in the show notes there. This is a site that you put up, with your company there. On the very first page, one of the things that, uh, is in the little headliner there is, um, a big ol' arrow that points down to a root cause analysis, a free root cause analysis to uncover what's impacting your mind and body. Um, why would you make that free?
Because you have a right to know what's happening in your body. You have a right to know where things are coming from, why, how, when, where, all of that. It's your body. You have a right. We don't need to charge for that because you know what? It's a service to the community, the broader community worldwide. If you choose to work with us once we give you the results of the root cause analysis, fantastic. We're there in your corner. But if you don't, that's okay. You have every right to have the information.
You've also got, quizzes on there, so those are pretty good that people can go and, look at stuff and take quizzes, to identify traumatic experiences and all of that stuff, s serotonin versus dopamine. I looked at that one real quick, so very interesting. So how are things today? And in terms of what you're doing, um, one, what does your day look like on a normal day?
Oh my gosh. My day starts with 10 chickens and 1 rooster and hand feeding each one of them and making sure that they're all nice and healthy and, getting them treats. That takes me about an hour, cleaning up after them. My son has an egg business here from home. So, we have totally free range, totally organic eggs, which is great. But, spending some time with our animals, then we head out to our alpacas. We have 2 alpacas. We clean up after them, make sure they're okay. We're going through some training procedures with them for emergencies at the moment. We live in a bushfire zone. And unfortunately, last summer we had to leave them behind when we evacuated. So it's never happening again. And then my day starts with, what do I need to do for me? I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to have a whole lot of water. I'm going to have a sauna. Then I'm going to start my work day. So I've already done a few hours stuff before I head to work. And so for me, it looks like learning. I make sure part of my day is learning something new, making sure that I have quality family time and I'm not just in my office throwing myself into work. Um, in the evening, we have dinner together as a family every single night. We watch a couple of TV shows. We are so stuck on Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen at the moment.
Really?
and yeah, we always have that quality time. As I said, my boys are in their 20s now and they're my best friends. And so we have that family best friend time. We can chat about anything. They head off. For me, I'm in bed by 9:30. Phone's off. You can't contact me unless I have to stay up for a podcast, which I do. And then, it all starts again the next day. Um, of course, I love my family. I love my friends. I try to spend as much time with them as I can, but I also listen to my body. And so there's times when I just can't. And I'm like, I've had a big week and I need some time for myself. And so that's something that I had to learn over the years, but something that's crucially important for me.
So, knowing what you've had to go through to get to where you are, if you were to look back and, you know, I guess make a change in the way that health is approached in society, what would that be?
Wow, I would have listened to my body a long time ago instead of entrusting it to other people, aka the doctors. So if I was to change anything, I would make sure that every single child is taught listen to your body. Nothing happens without a reason and you have every right to know what's going on. I think that's really important. I see it in my animals. As I said, I spend time with my chickens every single morning and I see them treating their body the way they need to. And I feel like the human race has lost that. Animals do it all the time. They know when they need to eat something to make themselves vomit. They know when they need to eat something because they might be exposed to a parasite. They know when they maybe need to stop eating because they're just not feeling great and they need to hydrate. We're the only ones that aren't doing that. So I think, if I could change anything in the world, it would be to say to every single child, things are going to happen and you need to listen to your body.
You made a comment that made me think of one of the episodes of yours that I listened to about accountability.
Yeah.
And you made a statement that I wanted to ask you about. So this is where I'll do it. You said that we give away accountability to other
Yeah.
people instead of taking it ourselves. I kind of was like, do we give it away or do we push it onto other people where in the health field, we just go to the dude, like, make me feel better. Like it's your responsibility. We don't give it away. We actually force it on the people. We don't want that ourselves. And we're taught that other people are going to do things for us. Um, but the giving away, the fact that we just give it away, that's kind of been the way
Well,
we've been taught, right?
well, it is. It's the way we've been programmed to live, right?
Yep.
But we are actually giving it away because without our permission, they can't do what we're requiring them to do. So the giving away is the giving away your autonomy, the giving of permission for someone else to pull the strings. And, this is where we need to look at ourselves and go, okay, I need to be accountable for my health. I can ask for help, as in, clients come and see me and they ask for help. Okay. But at the end of the day, it's their body. I don't know what's happening after I've spoken to them unless they're going to tell me, right? And they're going to ask me to come in and be involved. What we tend to do with the medical system, the mainstream medical system, is yes, we push it on them and then we wipe our hands of it because they tell us to do that. Okay. You need to get these tests done. And then you need to come back to me and speak to me about that. And then you need to take this medication. Okay. Where in that is, would you like to know what these tests mean? Would you like to research anything else? Even a medication. Would you like to know the ins and outs of this medication? No, it's you must take this. And we see this worldwide, but it all stems from us giving our permission to do so. So we are giving it away.
Okay. So, how much is what we do when it comes to our health, our relationships, all of that stuff is based around fear? Like, we don't want to know really what's wrong, right?
Yeah. We're scared of what if I actually do know what it is? What happens then? It's almost like everything is fear based. And, there's an old saying fear can mean two things: forget everything and run. So, you're just running from it, or forget everything and rise. And I think we need to do that more. We need to go, okay, something's happening. I'm going to stand here and I'm going to confront it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to deal with it. Not I'm going to push it away and hope it never chases me down.
All right. Good advice there. Like I said, I've got the links to your website. I also want to uh, talk about a book that you wrote that's still out there, still available. Uh, Stop Being Fat, Love Yourself Skinny, an easy approach to
Yeah.
achieving permanent weight loss.
Yeah, I wrote this while I was really sick. So you can tell for the first 4 chapters, it's like, yeah, okay, it's a hard slog. And then the last chapter, I'm feeling a lot better and it's got a very different tone. It's quite interesting as a time capsule of my life. But I wrote it because I was having so much trouble with my weight. And as I said, early on, I used my weight to control my life through lack of food, through binging, then had my kids, everything changed, and then I'd become morbidly obese. So for me, this was a continuing theme in my life. And so I wrote this book about self love. It's not a weight loss book. It's about learning to love yourself from within, taking that accountability of who you are, what you strive for, what you stand to be, and saying, okay, my weight is a symptom. But once I love myself, the weight doesn't matter so much. And in fact, what you'll find is it comes more in line when you love yourself, when you know who you are, and you have that internal pillar of strength, because I think a lot of us have lost that. So it talks about a lot of the myths around weight loss. It's got a lot of facts and figures in there. It talks about medical treatment of weight loss. I probably should rewrite the book because now we have all these crazy weight loss injectable
Oh,
drugs.
yes, we
Like,
do.
let's not even go there. But this was before all that. So, it really looks at why is weight an issue for so many of us and what are we being taught? It talks about the I wrote this in the early 2010s. So it talks about the media. Now we see bigger people on a lot of shows and they're not just the really funny person, right? They're actually a character of substance. But back then we weren't seeing that. They were either the really funny clown person
Right.
or the really mean, horrible person because they were big. So it talks about that and how, certainly here in Australia, there was about 20 or 30 years where the only people in magazines were super skinny and could wear anything off the rack. Well, that's just not what the population is. So, I'm really proud of the book. It does talk about a lot of in-depth things behind weight. So it's a weight loss book without being a weight loss book.
All right. So there's a link for that in the show notes as well. And a lot of what you talked about, for some reason, I don't know why, because they're not the same, but your last podcast where you talked about what is healthy, and there was a whole section that you talked about relationships, and it was with
Yes.
other people, pets, your garden, and then finally yourself.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
gotta have a healthy relationship with yourself above everything
You
else.
do. You do, because if you don't, you can't have a healthy relationship with anyone else.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, Magic, it was great to meet you for this podcast. I hope to do more with you.
Thank you, and I've really loved this. Thanks for your time.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Magic Barclay, Holistic Natural Health Australia, her podcast, A Magical Life. Check that out. And we'll have a link to her book on uh, the Amazon or wherever you can get that. So, uh, excuse me, a nice discussion there. And hope you learn something. Hope it motivates you. And it hopes you to do what I always say at the end of the show here live healthy and be happy. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.